would be a Rick. Uptown Funk. Who's the book? Okay. Napoleon Hill. First, I know that ability to be a rocket executive in life. Therefore, I demand myself resisting continuous action towards attainment, and I hereby promise to render subtraction. Second, I realize that dominating thoughts of my mind will eventually reproduce themselves without physical action, and gradually transform themselves into reality. Therefore, I will concentrate myself regarding this day upon the task of thinking the person I intend to become, thereby creating my mind a literal image of that person. Third, I know through the principle of suggestion, any desire that I persistently hold in my mind will eventually seek expression through some practical means of making it out of macro. Therefore, I will devote the end of the day to demanding myself development of self-confidence. Fourth, I am committed to absolute success in getting life, and I will never stop trying until I have developed sufficient self-confidence to attain it. Fifth, I fully realize that no public position can be secure unless self-confidence is justice. Therefore, I will engage in no transaction which does not result in that. I will succeed by attracting myself the forces I wish to use and in cooperation with other people. I will use others to serve me because my goal is to serve others. I will eliminate hatred, envy, jealousy, selfishness, and cynicism by developing love for all humanity because I know that the negative attitude toward others can never bring me success. I will cause others to believe in me because I will believe in them and in myself. I will sign my name to this formula, commit it to memory, and repeat it aloud once a day with full faith it will gradually influence my thoughts and actions so that I will become self-reliant and self-assured. 12 steps. This is the 12-step formula of the physical standard which, when followed with exactly the positive pattern, guarantees 24 plus transactions annually and unprecedented personal growth and achievement. 1. I dedicate 1 hour daily toward building and protecting my self-confidence. 2. I practice and internalize my self-skills for a minimum of 1 hour each day. 3. I contact my sphere of influence by mail, by phone, and or in person, and avoid them early. 4. I make 150 plus contacts per week, 30 plus per day, by phone or in person. 5. I follow all nothing days. 6. I set 5 plus meals away per week with buyers and sellers. 7. I completely requalify 100% of my appointments. 8. I have 110 with a solicitation ratio of 50 and 100. 9. I call all my sellers weekly to see the always because beauty submitted by percent. 10. I sell 75% more of my listing inventory. 11. I will return every time I call a contact every buyer lead within 2 hours of any turn. 12. I only work with highly qualified buyers who are extremely qualified for mortgage lender and have signed a buyer broker agreement. Or conditions that less time was less energy spent. I recognize that success comes from consistent action resulting in predicted outcome. Therefore, I commit to following every step of the 12 steps of success. Now I am the voice. I will lead not follow. I will believe not doubt. I will create not destroy. I am a force for good. I am a leader. Defy the odds. Set a new standard. Step up. Step up. Step up. Step up. Step up. Step up. I am a professional salesperson who gets no soul. I take consideration to help my clients achieve their goals. I relentlessly grind. I focus on solving every day. Real estate transactions are abundant in any market. My ability to everyone.
Morning.
How's everyone?
Outstanding.
Yeah, it's a great day. Okay, let's hear it. Gratitude wins is first. Some people are still writing. I can't wait to hear what theirs are. Matt, let's hear it. What's your win?
Yesterday.
Yeah.
It was a difficult one. It was a lot of fun.
Were you interviewing against other listing agents by chance?
Yeah, but I shared that on Tuesday, so
okay.
I won't rehash
okay.
those that were here. But yeah, it was. Okay, so I'll share a thought though along with it. Like we're told and we're taught and we believe this idea that we're trying to become leaders and influence people.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, this was an example of that to me because in this case, a decision still hadn't been made until I called again to follow up. And through just an additional phone call, got a commitment to list, and an hour later, a signed contract.
Glad you made that phone call.
Very much, yeah.
Good.
Yeah.
Good. Awesome. Who else?
I put 4-plex under contract.
Nice. Man, guys, way to go. Good job.
I was trying to convince him I could list and sell it for more than what he wanted to sell for, and he said, well, just buy it. So I put under contract and he's paying me 6% to buy
Well
it.
done. Good job. Good
Nice.
job. That's awesome. Yeah.
I also got a listing yesterday.
Love it. Yeah. We're applauding for all of you guys, okay? Not just Elmo. Yeah. Good job, man. That's great. Anyone else? Jessica, do you have anything by chance?
Why'd you pick me?
I don't know.
Because I called you. Yeah, I actually went door knocking yesterday, and it wasn't necessarily, I was, I guess, trying to be the expert as trying to create a need. And so I ran across the lady, and she was all about, I need a pool. So, yeah, now I have a lead, and I'm going to find her a pool with a new house.
Good job.
So I would have never found that if I didn't door knock. So, yeah,
Awesome.
it's good.
Awesome.
You should go get her a kiddie pool and take her. This will hold you over.
Right?
Yeah.
So Chris, I want to ask everybody that was here yesterday who actually did the thing that I asked them to do and wrote out your 7 equities and what you needed to work on. What the heck, guys?
Well, for those, remind everyone like what it is. You said the 7.
So yesterday in the book, he talks about the 4, he has 4 pillars, right? The physical, emotional, spiritual, and what was this last one? I can't remember.
Social.
Anyways, but he talked about, social, thank you, Don. And he talked about going into those categories and writing down what are the steps that I need to do to feel more or less I'm on track to be able to be what I need to be in those categories. So,
Why is that so important, Linz? Why do we need to write these things down?
you know, for me is, I'll go back to it just on my way home from Pennsylvania and visiting my grandma and things. I sat on the plane and obviously had heard George's message, and then also he had sent it to me to do it earlier in the week, and I hadn't done it yet, and I just decided that I was going to do it. And I will tell you, the power of intention is incredible. So since I've been back, you know, it's been fun. Like yesterday, just with everything again going on and trying to get caught up in everything, I still set my 2 appointments for the day, and I still did what I needed to do. And so just the power of intention for me and what I've seen in it, and then not only that, just the clarity of where and what you want your life to be, right? So Les Brown was talking about it this morning, and you know, I think it's actually Earl Nightingale who says it, but it's most people won't decide what they want. Is why they won't get what they want. Not because they can't get it, it's because they won't decide what they want.
They don't ask. Yeah.
And so I think just revisiting those 7 equities constantly, for me, I wrote down that I need to at least do it quarterly to rewrite, you know, what are my goals in those areas and what do I need to accomplish? Because I think if you're not directing your life, you're just living day in and day out. And I actually listen to, I hate him by the way, but Conor McGregor. And I just had to say that because he got his butt kicked this last weekend. I'm just so happy. Side note. But one of the things that he said in a video that I was listening to this morning is he said, you know, going to work from 9 to 5 is not living a life. And he goes on to talk about, like, he loves what he does, right? He wakes up, he loves it, he sees it, he visualizes it, and he does what he's supposed to be doing. So as much as I don't like the man, I also admired him for a lot of the qualities he has.
Intent to everything. How often do we do the same routine every day and hope for something different? Like something good might happen today. Doesn't work that way. Yeah.
I took a lot out of your meeting yesterday. I didn't hear you. Maybe I was just deep in thought and writing all this other stuff down. So I didn't hear your challenge to write all that stuff down. But I wrote a bunch of other stuff down that really kind of hit me and touched me. So your meeting wasn't for nothing, Lance.
And if I could add to that, Kevin, he said your home should be a place to restore. So that came out of that discussion, and I have a 13-year-old that most of the time I want to wring his neck. He's so difficult and such a challenge for me and my wife. And I just kind of took a different attitude with him last night and even this morning because of that thing that Kevin shared, just to try to create more peace in the home, as challenging as it is. So I remained peaceful even though he was a complete wreck. So
good example.
Yep.
Okay.
So value came from that discussion.
Yes, it was a very good discussion.
Okay, well, the challenge is still on, so go to it.
Okay. Anyone else? Victories, gratitudes. So literally for me, guys, as I'm writing things down this morning, I look out here. We get to look at this all the time. How cool is that? How awesome is that? Yeah. So fun time of year.
Both sides, bro.
Both sides.
So, okay, announcements. Again, Summit, November 13th. No Summit this month. UPW, November 8th through 11th. Newark, $695 VIP. Is that still available?
Yes.
Lindsay? Okay.
It's actually.
So do it. Life-changing experience.
Go
Doesn't matter.
off.
Doesn't matter if you sleep in your car, in the park somewhere. Just go.
Are you going to do that one, Linz?
I am going.
This is going to be number what for you? 47.
At UPW, it will be number 6, I think.
Okay. You pull something every time you go. So.
That's a phenomenal deal. When I went, it was $695 for general admission.
Uh-huh.
Just rent a U-Haul.
And VIP is a little bit better than general admission, right, John?
Oh, U-Haul that?
I was general admission. Yeah. Okay, guys. So today, I'm pretty excited about some of the things we're going to talk about. For me, like something lately in meeting with different agents, especially experienced agents or newer agents. A lot of times we can focus in on so many different things within the sales process, right? There's transition statements, level shift, things like that. And we have this, it probably looks like this, like our detailed deal when we simply do a phone call or whatever it is. And before we even start, we're just so in our heads about like, well, I've got to do this, or I've got to do that, or I've got to do this. And today I really wanted to kind of focus on the basics, but if you master these basics, a lot of these things naturally occur, transition statements, level shifts within your presentation. And I'll talk about it in a minute, but for me, and George mentioned this yesterday, but those that are most successful in life, lead the most significant lives, make the most money. George already said it yesterday. Everyone was here yesterday, right, for base camp? Hopefully. Okay. Hey, George. So I was just talking about it. So
Don't say what you were going to say.
what? So I wanted to talk about flossing. No, that's not. So again, those that bring the most value within every interaction, they lead the most significant lives. Not only the most value, when I say the most value, not to the most people, but within every interaction that you have, bring the most value to that individual. So that brings me to the next point. Like those that are the best, I don't want to say salespeople, I'm going to say solution finders, make the best connections with others. They're the very best at finding what that need or want is. And that need or want, isn't always something that that person's aware of. So what I mean by that is, we talk about like objection handling, right? It's basically, the objection is basically their problem or what their need is in disguise, right? Every single interaction that you have, it comes down, and I've said this already, but it comes down to two general objections that people have. It really does. And the more you look for this, the more you'll find that in every interaction you have. It comes down to, I know what my need is, but I don't think that you can help me. I don't see the value in you and what you're bringing to help me with my need. I'm aware of what my need or problem is. And the second one, does anyone want to help me out with this? Like some of you have heard this multiple times. Someone's looking down that I'm looking at right now. So the second one is, I don't know what my need is or my problem or what the opportunity is for me, and I need you to educate me. So George's call yesterday. We were calling FISBOs, that last call. What would you categorize that one as? Remember, like 1, I know what my need is, I don't think you can help me. And then 2, I don't know what my need is, and I need you to educate me. What was that guy, if you classify him? FISBOs in general.
He was a narcissist.
So, there's the third category. Many times, like FISBOs, they know what their need is, they need to sell their home. They don't see the value in what we provide. They don't think that we can help them, right? Other times, if you're at a door, and let's say in Jessica's situation, like she wanted a pool, but she didn't know that that was possible, right? So many times people don't know their need, or they don't know opportunity that's out there, and we're here as their advisors to help them know that that opportunity is within reach. So that's one basic side of things, and I'm telling you, like everyone I talk to, like depending on, in the beginning, I can say, okay, I know where I need to go in this situation, in this conversation. The other thing is I'm going to talk about a couple basics before I go into a sales process that I use that's helped me in a big way to bring value to others. But I'm going to talk about a couple things that are absolutely necessary when we're meeting with a client to get a listing, when we're talking to just people in general and we want to provide value to them regardless of the situation. There are a few things that are absolutely important. So I'm not even going to write these down in interest of time, but first, and Rick talked about this today, I heard you talk about target market. You have to identify your client and the situation. You have to. People that are not self-aware when they're speaking to others or who their client is, that's when you sound like everyone else. So I'm going to try and put this in another way. Like, if we see billboards everywhere, it's not just like, it's not so general. It's not like, hey, are you human? Do you like stuff? Give me a call, whatever it is. It's specific. It's identifying that individual. You'll find this everywhere you go. Like, hey, I'm thinking off the cuff, like, do you experience male pattern baldness? Do you feel alone? Whatever it is, like, they identify that person better than anyone else, and that's why someone's like, ooh, that's me. I'm going to give him a call, right? So I'm not speaking from experience, okay? Just know that, okay?
You have a full head of hair.
So thank you, Jordan.
Now he does.
And then the other thing is, those that, like, let's say if I'm on the phone and I need to establish rapport with someone, I identify that situation. I have like seconds to establish rapport and move on into my script, right? Seconds. But if I start going into like, hey, how's it going? Where are you from? Well, I'm from here. Like, you know, it's not the same approach as when you're at a door or in another situation, right? Identify your market or your client and the situation. Another thing is, George brought it up yesterday, self-belief and confidence is an absolute must. I was watching it was during the US Open, and it was actually a really good point. This announcer that generally does golf somehow like was at a tennis match and doing a commentary with other announcers there, and so this player was playing Novak Djokovic in the US Open. And this player, he's like rated number 60 something in the world. Novak Djokovic, he's like the new hot item, and this guy's like number 5 or 4 in the world. And his coach, this guy's coach, literally told him, this player that, you know, was so far down in the standings and the rankings, he's like, yeah, Novak Djokovic pretty much does every single thing better than you. Everything. And then this announcer, this new guy, he asked the other guys, he's like, so why does he even show up? Why is he there? Like, if you don't think you have a chance to win this, why do you even show up? And it was an interesting point. George mentioned yesterday during base camp, he's like, there are attorneys, which is a great example. There are attorneys that, you know, will charge $150 an hour, and there are attorneys that will charge upwards of $2,000 plus per hour. Are there better attorneys than the ones that charge $2,000 plus? Are there better attorneys even than that guy who charges so much that may be accepting $150 an hour? That self-confidence and belief is an absolute must. And I'm going to say this also. Yeah, John.
So, years ago, there was one morning there was an agent here that was way excited about FSBO they're going to go talk to. And I started asking, I didn't ask enough questions, but I asked a few questions. And the way he's talking is, oh, I really hope I'm all, wait. You better be saying to yourself, I'm the best agent for the job of selling this home, all the way till you get to that appointment. So I also had an appointment, and when I knocked on the door, guess which agent was knocking out of the house?
That.
Yeah, and guess which agent got the listing?
You did.
Right.
Yeah. So so it's a great point. I wanted to share, there was this study done with elementary school kids, and basically they went to these teachers and they said, we have these 5 gifted students, highly gifted students coming into your classroom this year, and we want to see what happens to them throughout the year when they're with other students who maybe aren't as gifted, smart, whatever you want to say. And we want to see at the end of the year what that looks like, if being around those individuals, you know, if they continue to be as gifted as they always have been. And secretly, this was actually a study on the teachers. These kids were exactly the same as every other kid. These were not like the gifted ones that they put them up to be. Do you think so throughout the year, the interesting thing is they retested these kids, and these same 5 kids tested through the roof. So what I'm saying is, like, self-belief is so important, but also those we associate with. Do you think those teachers treated them a little bit differently throughout the year? Yeah. So it was a study on the teachers. If we know that someone is gifted, like how we treat those individuals. So what I'm saying is surround yourself with those that see you as that gifted individual. Many times when we don't, when those self-doubts come in, things like that, we need those individuals around us that see and believe in us and challenge us. Okay? And then I'm going to say the last thing is, this is one thing that I see over and over again when we're so focused on again, these hundreds of different things we want to do through a presentation so that we seem like we're a great salesperson, or we get the home sold, or whatever it is in every interaction. Be present. Be present. Those individuals that listen best and can recognize that need are the ones that capitalize and close. Those individuals that are thinking of the next thing to say, and we've all been there, when you're new at something, when maybe the confidence is lacking, you're thinking, what do I say next? What do I say next? What do I say next? And you have, as human beings, we can recognize those things in people, whether in person or over the phone. We hear a pause. We hear like a change in tone, whatever it is. That is exactly why you have to be present, because that need is starting to surface, and you need to be able to recognize that need. Make sense? So what I'm going to share right now is simply 4 steps that I take, and I do this in prospecting, I do it in meeting with an agent, I do it in every situation, because deep down, like, if we want to be successful, we need to provide value. And not just value, but we need to provide the value that's most important to that individual, which means I need to find what's most important to that person and where I can help them. So these 4 steps alone, like, these are going to seem like mundane and everything, but if you learn this intrinsically and it becomes a part of who you are, I literally do this, like, I do this when I'm talking to people at barbecues. I do this when I'm, like, talking to my wife. I do this all the time. But again, it's not about just selling someone something. It's about, I want to provide value to you and help you. That's all it's about. I mean, I hate to make it, like, overly simple, but that's what it's about. And the better you get at it, you're going to lead an extraordinary life. You're going to make lots of money. And I base pretty much everything I do off of these 4 items, okay? And this will also help you when you're going through. Have you guys ever been in a listing presentation or with a buyer, or things just get out of control, or even with another agent you're communicating with and you're like, where the heck are we at now? Like, where do I even go with this? This will help you maintain control throughout those processes and know exactly what you need to do in every situation to regain that connection with the individual to be able to provide value. Sound good?
Yep.
Okay, so first thing is, oh man, I love this marker. Must be new. Is simply the introduction. So much goes into this though. It goes into how we represent ourselves professionally. It goes into building rapport with that individual. But it basically comes down to, from the most basic side, you need to have a connection with that person. Just establish a connection. And from there, like, getting buy-in that you are the representative that can help them. As soon as you see that in the person, you don't have to keep going through 500 other things throughout your conversation about where are you from, oh, I like this, and I like that, we have that in common. As soon as you have this connection with the individual, and I'm going to go into these in a little bit more detail in just a moment, that's when we label this differently also. Fact find, or just questions. Literally, and when we're doing this sales process, it's not just asking questions in general. Sometimes I hear people, they'll have like 1,500 questions, and again, without listening to the individual, they're like question 1, question 2, question 3, question 4, question 5, and they go right through it. It's almost like a survey with that individual. A couple things on the question side. We start with the general questions, thought-provoking questions. That's what's most important. Alma, like listening to him today, the best salespeople, whether they realize they're doing it or not, are doing it. Alma was establishing rapport in a role play with Rick in the very beginning in the way he spoke. He established rapport in asking questions about the home. And then he started generally to give him an idea of where to go in that conversation. So another way to word this is, sometimes when we ask those specific questions, like, we're only going to get specific answers. And usually when people feel dead-ended through that conversation, it's because they've asked just those very specific questions without giving the person an opportunity to talk or to talk about what their need is. Does this make sense, guys?
Yep.
So what I tell agents, especially when prospecting, is identify your audience, but have 2 to 3 like general questions in identifying your audience that they're going to want to talk about. People all the time now talk market. What's going on in the market? All the time. So, like, that's one of the general things that I use. Like, I give thought-provoking questions, like, do you know what's happening into your area right now with the market? Have you heard? No, what's going on? Your area has gone up an average of 11% in only the last year in home values. This is a hot area. We don't have enough homes in this area. That's a thought-provoking type question. Yeah, listen.
The thing you have to be careful about is when you tell people their value went up 11%, sometimes they already have an inflated idea of what their house is worth, and now you just said it's worth 11% more. And so, just a thought.
It does. It comes down to how you word it, right? Like you say, in this area, on average, homes or whatever, like we need to have a conversation.
And I don't have anything specific that way. It's just a thought.
Yeah, it's a good point. You don't want to talk yourself into a corner, right? Yeah.
You know, I think she makes a good point. I've come across that scenario before, and they're like, oh, wait, no, so it's not 11% of what I thought. What I typically do in that scenario is, you know what, this obviously isn't your first rodeo. You've been able to do the numbers. How did you come up with such a good number? Because you're right. And from where the market was to where you priced your home at, that's an 11% growth.
Mm-hmm.
So I've always make them like, wow, you did a lot better than most people typically do on pricing their home
Yeah.
priced it correctly.
So it is obviously up to us, depending on the situation, to use reason within things, right? But there's also a reason that we know what the market is doing, right? People, we're educating them on what is happening in the market. But it does depend on how we package things, right? So I want to make sure we're on the same page there. And then the third is present, apply. It's basically fulfilling a need. Once we find that need within our conversation, we don't keep talking. We don't keep talking about, like, well, what about this? What about that? What about this? We give them the solution, and that's packaged in, like, I'm so glad you brought that up. That is exactly why we need to meet. This is what I'll be doing once we do meet. And then lastly, we close. This is why we need to meet. When are you available? Or not when are you available, but, you know, I'm going to be in the area this day, this time to this time. And then we close. Here's the part that's very important, guys, that I want to make sure that everyone knows. If I'm asking questions, and I move on to this point, and I can see that the person is just turned off. I can see there's not a connection, that they want to just be done with me, everything from there. What you need to do is, we don't keep asking questions and getting people more and more annoyed. We need to reestablish that connection with them. So we need to reestablish the rapport we have with them. Does this make sense?
Yep.
If, after asking questions, I think I found a need, or I recognize the need that they have, and I move on to presenting, like, what I'm going to do to help fulfill that need, and say they say no, what step do I need to go to? I need to go back to asking questions, because I did not uncover that need in the individual. Right? Yeah.
So what we're talking about is, to make sure I understand, is like when we're talking intro, we're not talking a listing presentation, we're talking in regards to prospecting or meeting a new potential client, right?
It is every single interaction where we want to help provide value to someone. If I'm meeting with an agent, even one of our own agents or interviewing agent, I sit down, I say, tell me a little bit about yourself. I establish rapport with that individual and a connection with that individual. The important thing within that is to know that my connection is sound enough that if I ask them questions that they'll give me truthful answers, right? So again, it's any situation where we're looking to provide value to others. That's why I say I literally, conversationally, do this all the time.
Even when you want a new side-by-side from your wife, right?
So even within that,
He's relating to himself.
even within that, yeah, it is. It's every single situation. Of course, that's going to be tough because you're going to have to provide value for the side-by-side.
She gets
But yeah.
her seat.
Matt.
So George's phone call yesterday with the woman that's moving to Texas, I think is a great example of this, because that kind of was a dead end with her moving, like she's not looked right, and we talked about that yesterday. A lot of people might hang up on that, but instead he circles back and starts over like twice, and then she says, well, let me ask you, I want to become an agent, right? So she found trust, obviously enough, to ask for his advice, because he was willing to circle back to the top instead of just saying, all right, have a good day.
And what's interesting is he did not start with just the specific questions so that he could uncover that need she had, right?
Yeah.
And because of the connection he had with her, she felt comfortable enough after he provided value and finding a home down there to say, by the way, I'm looking to become licensed. Is this setting in a little bit, guys? I'm hoping. So, again, like if I'm presenting something that I want to provide a value to them, the reason they're going to set an appointment with me, and they say no, or that doesn't appeal to them, or I feel that it's not what they need, I go right back to asking my fact-finding questions. And if they aren't being truthful in what they answer, if they don't want to answer those questions, I establish rapport. And then I come right
those
back.
questions, when you're starting off on that fact find, those questions, just an easy way, again, is to start into it. Hey, share with me.
Yes.
Help me understand. I'm curious. Sometimes we forget even how to even start into a question.
Or even when you see in our role play, yes. Even in our role play yesterday when we were doing door knocking role plays, Jessica, you kind of looked down and you could see that you were thinking about something. Ask them, what do you think about that? Or what are your thoughts about that? Again, that's opening them up to share with us what their needs are, right? So for me, again, like having this process literally can make it a conversational process you have with people when you talk to them and find the value in what you can provide for them. I know this looks simple, but once you take it in intrinsically and you naturally do this, I absolutely love when I'm meeting with agents or groups of agents or other people, and I tell them at the end, like, I literally did that today when we met. Like I said, how are things going in your business? What's going on? Establishing rapport, that connection again, like whatever it is, and then going through like questions to find out how can I help you as an agent? Like, where's the need for you in your business right now? And then I say, great. As soon as I find that need, I go right into this is what I can do to fulfill that value for you or provide value. And then from there, I'll challenge an agent to, by this time next week, I challenge you to do this and this and this. That's my close. If my wife is had, like even at home, like if I can tell she's had a rough day, talk to her about her day. Why was your day rough? It sounds like I'm totally doing this from a sales side, but it's providing value again. What was rough about your day? Tell me more about that. Let me help with this in the future. Like, it's everywhere, guys. Again, it's providing value. I want to get us out of the thought of like, I'm selling you this and I'm trying to like overcome all this stuff and I'm going to sell you this item. No, it's providing value. And it's being the very best at uncovering what that need is and what that want is. Last story, I wanted to share this in the beginning, but Vince Lombardi, he was the coach of the Green Bay Packers, I believe from 1959 to 68. Before that, the Packers, since 1944, losing season, horrible years, they were just about to go away. Vince Lombardi comes in, and the first day, I'm not sure how many are familiar with this story, but the very first day he comes in, introduces himself to the team, and he pulls out a football and he says, "This gentleman is a football." I can't do a Vince Lombardi impression. He says, "This is a football. This is," and he literally takes the team out to the field and he says, "This is the end zone. It has, 4 corners. These are the measurements of the field." So many times, yeah. Go ahead.
I'm pretty sure he started every season that way.
Yeah.
Which is an important part of that story.
Thanks. Every single season, so many times we look at, and I'm not taking away from the other things that are so important, right? The level shifts, the transition statements, everything there. But sometimes if we focus just on those minute details, we need to first learn to master the basics, and it's about providing value. One thing that will help so much in building your self-confidence is, again, building those basics. By the way, Vince Lombardi, he won 2 Super Bowls, the first 2 Super Bowls, multiple division championships, conference championships, and the Super Bowl trophy is named after him. Master the basics, and again, it's about providing value. If you go into every situation and say, this person has something, has a need or wants somewhere, I'm going to uncover what it is. If you're focused on that rather than I'm giving you what I want to give you every single time, you will have a fan for life. You will have someone that will connect with you and say, this person, Jessica, gets me like no one else does because she knows that I need a pool and everyone else just wanted me to move into a larger home or whatever it is, right? Yeah, Linz.
I just want to emphasize on that and give kudos to Matt, because he left out to you guys who he went up against when he took that listing, and I won't share that unless he wants to, but I just want to give kudos to the fact of how he has literally just come in, and we all saw it when he gave his listing presentation a couple weeks. He has learned and mastered, and he's continuing to master the skills on a daily basis, and the reason why he got the listing is because of his ability to stay disciplined to the things that they're saying and actually master the skills that he needed to go up against the individuals he did to take that listing. So
yeah, thank you. And the last thing I want to share, guys, again, in finding value for others, we have an excellent product and service that we provide others, right? It's a life-changing product or service for others. In providing value, George said it yesterday, have fun. Be someone that they can trust, that they can talk to. Have fun with it.
And if you do this, this alone, this is so simple, but this alone and mastering this and what I do gives me the confidence every time I go into a conversation with someone, whether coaching, whether a new recruit, whether prospecting for new business, because I know that I am like one of the best at establishing rapport and getting a connection with the individual and finding that value. That gives me the confidence. There are people that are better than me. Obviously, there are people that are better than me that have been in the business longer, that know more than me. But I go into that, and I know I'm going to win. I know I'm going to win that. And if I don't, something just far out happened throughout that conversation or whatever happened. And if I don't win that, if some flat fee agent comes in or whatever and tries to win, I promise you that person, because I found that value to be able to provide them, is going to think about me like 1 week, 2 weeks later and say, I told you we should have gone with Chris. Master the fundamentals, guys. Master being able to find value in every interaction you have with people, and you will win. Almost each and every time you will win, regardless of who you're going up against, just like Matt. So, yeah.
Great example of that is had a gal that I met with last year who I'm listing on Thursday, and she called me back because she did sell a house with another agent. She actually sold 2 houses with another agent and sent me a text and said, hey, totally regret not going with you. I totally should have gone with you. We did sell the houses, but it was a terrible experience, and next time I will go with you. And she did. She just gave me a call, and we're meeting Thursday to list.
Yeah. When you connect with them better than anyone else, when you find the value they need, that's a connection they won't forget. Yeah. Great example. Okay, guys. Master the basics. Let's go.
Mortar, further down every day.
Trying to find it different.
Oh, that one you was in there was...
You do something too.
Oh.
I succeed because I act my goals. I am an optimist. I like talking to new people. I know what's important to me. I remember people's names. I have vision. I am following. I am passionate about real estate. I love what this is like at school. I like asking questions and listening. I enjoy reading to improve my self-skills. My thoughts and my emotions that act as results. I focus on my dream daily. My expectations are powerful solutions. I improve my skills daily. I am happy. I love the prospect because it feeds my business. I see my future is awesome. I love my life. I am grateful and thankful. I control my needs. I believe in me. I feel outstanding. I treat my beliefs now. I get things done. I provide excellent customer service. I drink water daily. I connect with people. People love me. I love others. I intentionally adapt to my daily schedule. I prospect daily. I set appointments daily. I am a master persuader. I achieve my goals. I'm a real estate rock star. I am passionate about my life. I live every day with purpose. I am confident in my sales skills. I know my destiny. I am healthy and strong. I am powerful. I am unstoppable. I keep positive, exciting, fun, productive, I want to know.